Okay, here we go. Now I can announce the topic.
Google, all things Google advertising. Um, I can I can give you my thoughts on it. At the end of the day, your website's your store, and it is the word of mouth. And Google's as well, as much as Bing has grown, as well as much as all the Yelp, as much as anything else, every business I talk to, Google is still their big one. It's still where they get the most leads, the most amount of traffic. Google is the one. Funny enough, we've looked into marketing with like Yelp and things of that nature, and it is crazy how expensive these other avenues are in comparison to Google. Like it's on point with how much you would spend. Like, I think we're gonna do an intro month for Yelp, and it was like $300. Whereas that was at the time our budget for Google, and it was like thousands of leads a year versus dozens with Yelp. So all that to say, you guys got to be on Google, and I think you already are. And I think that I saw a little email exchange, and it looks like Michael has done some of the heavy lifting for us all.
Yeah, I put together I sent you a second version of the document, Stacy. So I added some extra links to send out to everybody. And
So good.
I did a lot of watching different YouTube videos, and actually I went to one of the SCORE presentations on Google profiles, and so I've got a lot of information to give everybody.
Oh,
And then David, you can chime in with your experience on top of what I found just
okay.
from my limited experience. So
Michael, do you want to just share? Do you want to screen share and just show
yeah,
us what you got?
probably
Yeah.
gonna be easiest. Yeah.
I love this because Michael, you're the newest one that I know that is like verified on Google and gone through the whole thing. So it's just the last time I did Google verification, they didn't even have the video yet. So that's fairly new.
Yeah,
So
and really with people, if you sign up and set it up as a service business, which everybody is, they're probably going to require the video verification based on everything that I've read and heard.
Mhm.
So yeah, let me yeah, so if you can add me as a participant for screen share.
Yeah, here you go.
you should be able to now. Did that work?
Yeah, I'm
Okay, good.
sharing
Sorry.
sharing the
I'm
monitor
so
here.
excited.
Yeah,
All
Michael,
right.
for you, it's just hot off the press. Literally, I mean,
Yeah,
we did this in
basically,
Denver.
yeah. Yeah. So let me get this out of the way here. All right. So as everybody's aware, is you've done Google searches and you've seen things pop up for the Google profile that shows up. So if you're doing like piano tuning near me, it's going to give a list of items that will give links to this full profile. So the main things that are in this profile that people are using, of course, is location. In this case, I have a boundary map of my service area. Photos, which people like, of course, your company name, link to website, your phone number, hours, which is very important. Down at the bottom is a description, which I'm surprised they have this at the bottom and not up the top, but whatever. And then some other stuff that I ran across in the videos is setting up categories as well as products.
Mm-hmm.
So while we're not technically selling products off of a website or stuff like that, still set up your things as products because that's going to help in your Google profile ranking. As you have, the more things in your Google profile, the better your ranking is going to be for Google, or the more that it's going to take it at the higher rate. So if we move over to here, so this is a link that Stacy will send out. If you go to google.com/business, this is the page for it used to be called Google My Business, but it's now business profile. And you can sign in with any email, but the recommendation is create an email as your business name. So for example, mine is Midwest Piano Services at gmail.com. So if you can get a Gmail account with your business name or something close to your business name, use that separate from your standard what you would have customers email you to. That way you have an account dedicated to your Google profile, as well as your Google Ads, your Google Analytics. All of that's tied to that Google profile.
Fascinating. That makes a lot of sense, actually, especially, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you'll want to sign in as that. And, you can see, see whether I can go over here. So you can see here when I've done, a search for my profile, you can see that I'm logged in with my Google account as midwestservices@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So, but if we go back over here, so, whoops. So once you sign in, you're going to create an account. First, you're going to enter a name, which is your business name, and then they're going to set up a password. And then I think you automatically enter in your phone number so that they can do validation with the two-factor authentication, and send you a text for the 6-digit password to validate that it's you. And then the next thing after that, and I'm actually going to go in, see, I don't know whether I can do that now since I'm not setting up a new thing, but it'll ask you when you set it up, are you going to be a physical store or are you going to be a service business? So you're going to select, I want to be a service business. And then it's going to ask you, what business category are you? And this is where it gets
choose?
This is where it gets interesting, because I looked up yours, David, a while back, and the old style had different categories than what they do now. So
Yeah.
you can't select the same thing that you had. But the cool thing is that they actually have piano tuning service as a business category, which is really cool.
No way.
They really do, which is really cool. And then the second thing that's really cool is you can later on, after you set up the initial account, you can set up a secondary service called piano tuning repairs. So you can have both in your system. So if we go here into services, you're going to have the main category, which is piano tuning service. And then I add another business category down here. That's piano tuning service. And then underneath that, you can list what are your services with descriptions.
This is, by the way, so much easier than what it used to be. Y'all have no idea. It's crazy.
They've updated this quite a few times, and they've made it fairly simple and fairly intuitive. So, you'll be able to put in, hey, I do piano tuning. Here's a description of what I do. I do piano repairs, that description, cleaning, and just list everything that you do in the process. The next page.
Where do you add the photos?
Well, I think that I can't remember whether that's in the initial setup or whether that's afterwards. But you have this whole
photos to the specific services, which is great.
Right. Yeah. So that's in the products.
Okay.
Which is separate. But as you're doing the base installation, after you select the category, then you're going to say, what is my service area? Initially, you're just going to say your main city, and then after you get the main setup, then you go back in and you can add up to 20 other areas, and you can do it not just by town, but you can do it by counties, which is how I've had my main setup. And I'll show the actual setup as here in a minute.
Wow.
And then the other thing, of course, is business address, phone number, and website. And that's the main stuff as far as the base setup. So if I go into the profile.
Let's put on pause for anybody, just like questions so far for anybody. Because I know that a handful of people are still, haven't gotten to this stage. They're still building their websites. But is there any questions so far in this stage in the game?
Michael, address is your service. Did you list your home address?
Right now, initially when I set it up, when you do this as a service business, you don't have to list your address. You can just say, what is my service area? But if you add your personal address, which I'm in the process of adding back in, then it shows up as a dot on Google Maps. If you don't have your address in there, then you don't have the dot within Google Maps. So it's a trade-off. If you don't want to give your address, then you're not going to have the dot. But if you want the dot, you got to give your personal address or your business address. And for most of it's going to be our home address. So it's a trade-off.
So it doesn't add any value to have that as far as a search engine.
No, the only ad that you get is that you'll have the dot within
Just
Google
the dot.
Maps.
Okay.
You know, so for example, if you say tuners near me, it'll show a Google map and it'll show all the dots of all the companies that do piano tuning. So it gives you a way as recognition on maps, but again, you know, it's a trade-off.
I was just gonna say the 2 or 3 other tuners that are around here, they have their home addresses listed, and so I figured, okay, well, if I'm competing, I may as well do the same thing, you know.
100%, David. That's what I was just gonna say.
There's the option to put it as that you don't have a storefront, and then they won't show your physical address. They'll still put the dot just in your region somewhere close by GPS. They'll put it.
I haven't seen that part, so I'll have to look again because I must have missed that.
Yeah, you can click it. I don't have a storefront is what it says, and it'll omit your physical address, but we'll still have it'll still have that ping in Google
That'd
Maps.
be under the location there,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, I'll have to look at that. So
you're in here, you're setting up everything. I mean, this is very self-explanatory. You have your business address, or excuse me, the phone number, website, all of that.
right, yeah. So just walking down, you know, the business name, you know, how you want it to show within the Google search. Here's the categories. This is where I added the secondary category. Your main description. Now, the one thing on this, make sure that you don't make this too long, because if you look down here, this will start scrolling off and it'll say hit more. So you want to make this so that it shows 100%, but not scrolls over.
Sure.
So that's a really important thing. Of course, your phone number, website. If you have Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, the other social profiles, you link those on there. It actually shows up at the bottom of the profile. Of course, business location we just talked about. I'm adding this in, but I'll have to look at once this gets processed what Dylan was talking about to be able to, you know, still have it show. And then here's where I was talking about the service area. I have both cities and the counties that I service. So I listed the main cities and then all of the surrounding counties around Indianapolis.
It used to be that it's a once we're done, I'll tell you what it used to be like and a horror story that literally happened. So
yeah, then the next thing, of course, you want to have your business hours. When is your main time that you're open for business? And then the other thing is go ahead and put in special hours for when you're closed for holidays. Or you have special vacation that you're definitely going to be closed. That way it'll show that you're closed.
Good call.
So that's, you know, there's other stuff that, you know, if you had an actual storefront, you can say, hey, you're handicap accessible and stuff like that. And you can add, you know, features like that. But it's once you go in here, it's actually pretty straightforward on the main profile. And then we start looking at, you know, editing the other stuff like, okay, I want to add a product.
There it is. Okay.
And then within here in the product listing, then you can add a photo. And then if you want to put your prices on here, you can do that. But I also put in here a link to Gazelle straight from the product.
Brilliant. Perfect.
So that while if they go to the website, I have the main website off the main profile of the Google profile. This is actually sending it straight to Gazelle.
Yeah.
And jumping the website.
Wow. That's fantastic. I don't even know if we've created products like this for any of our locations. So this is huge.
Yeah. And then, you know, the other thing is where you can set up your different categories that list here, which again links to those products.
So when you hit visit site, it takes you to Gazelle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
And the other cool thing is it automatically shows your phone number up here.
Are you able to change that from visit site to book now by chance, the verbiage?
I don't think so. At least I haven't seen it.
Got it.
Michael, those photos, were they just generic? Did you load those?
I loaded those.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put any photo you want. These are the same photos that I have on my website.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else.
So,
Of course, you know, the big thing about Google is you want to get the reviews. I don't have any reviews yet because I haven't really done much work yet. But if you want to plug your review link into an email, here's where you get it. Where it says
Okay.
ask for reviews, you can copy the review link, put it into your email to say, after you completed a service for somebody saying, hey, thanks, I was happy to work on your piano,
Yeah.
looking forward to continuing being, your piano tuner in the future. I would love for you, maybe you talk to them at the end of your appointment saying, hey, would you be willing to give me a Google review? They said yes. Then you send them an email with this link saying, here's the link to the Google to be able to set up a review.
And they literally have a button that said ask for reviews. So that kind of goes back to the question of getting penalized by asking for reviews. I mean, it's right there. So that's good.
I'm assuming you can text it to them as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Right here, there's a little copy button. You hit that, it
Okay.
copies it, and then you just copy it into your email. And
So talk about verification. You walked us
Yes.
through. Here's how you set it up. You got everything dialed in. Great.
yeah, so
What
this
next?
this is where it gets interesting because with the service business, at least my understanding, everything I heard is that they're doing everything by this video. And the video isn't, you just use your phone and create a video. You go in your Google profile and it has a verification link, and it sends you to a page that says, click here to record your video. So you have to grant rights to your microphone and your camera, but it uploads direct into Google with this video.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I submitted a link to what the process is so that everybody
Okay.
can look at it. But the main thing that they're asking for service businesses is, what are your tools or equipment that you use, marketing materials, whether it be, a business card or letterhead and stuff like that. Another thing that they said to use, which I used in mine, was a copy of my LLC certificate and an invoice that had my business name on it. So I actually used one of my Shaft invoices that had, they were sending it to Midwest Piano and my name and my address.
So are you literally having all of these things on a table? You're like, here's
I'll
this, here's this.
I'll walk
Is
you
that
through
it?
what I did, because they actually want you to video your street address of your house, because you have to provide that to them, even if you don't show it on your profile.
I had to
So-
walk around and take a video of my street sign and be like, okay, I'm walking from my street sign back to my house.
What?
Here's the address on my mailbox. Here's my front door.
Yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I essentially opened my garage door, opened the back end of my SUV, laid out
Yeah.
my tools, I laid
Yep.
out my documentation, I went out to the curb, started the video and pointed it to the house with the, like David said, with the address saying, hey, my name is Michael Pitts with Midwest Piano. Here's my address. Walked it up, showed, here's my tools for the piano tuning business. Here's my documentation, showed that, hit end, saved, and then submitted.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's not difficult, but you got to have everything laid out before you start the whole dumb thing.
That's so interesting because they were just starting to do this when we opened up the Denver branch, but they were only asking for photos of tools, and it had to be taken from that location so they can, make sure. But now this is a whole nother level.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Oh my
like
gosh.
David said, it's, and it's not a hard process. It's just, there's a lot that they're wanting to
Yeah.
validate where you're at.
So Stacy, are you still here?
Yeah,
She's
I'm
here.
here.
Okay. I didn't see you. Are you able to kind of put this document on the private page, for us so that people can kind of
Michael
review this?
made it. He totally
Oh
just
my
did all this
goodness.
for us, which I'm like, oh wow. And this
Have
is
you
so
been
helpful.
accepted?
Yeah, mine's verified. You can see the little check mark right here.
Yep,
That means that I've
verified.
been validated.
How long did it take?
It took a while. Well, the first time I did it, because I had to go through a couple of different times because I made a lot of updates and then they wanted me to verify a second time. But the first time only took, maybe 2 or 3 days for them to do the validation. The second time it took for a while, and I had to submit a case over to Google to say, hey, why are you taking so long? And eventually they got enough people nudged to be able to complete that and get it corrected. But yeah,
Pretty sure
it
this
shouldn't
is
take
a
too
funny-
long, as long as you go ahead and try to put, because you don't have to validate immediately. Go ahead and create it, add all of your information and try to get it finalized before you do the validation. That way you're not going out and doing updates, because you can see here, I've made this update and they're now reviewing what I requested to put in as an update.
Mine was taking a while too, and I'm pretty sure it's still not done, but I got a call yesterday and it sort of dawned on me why it might be taking so long. Mine's Riverbend Tuning, and I've gotten 3 calls now looking for a plumber, and I realized there's also Riverbend Plumbing around here. And when people look up, I need a plumber, Riverbend Plumbing pops up. Google got the wires crossed, and it shows my face and my phone number with the plumbing website.
Oh, that's wild.
So I'm sort of like,
wow.
well, so yeah, I have to get that figured out. That's been fun.
Michael, this is huge. Like, this is such a leg up for people to just be like, okay, here it is. And
yeah, again, it's not hard. It's just there's a lot of little things to go through and update, and make sure again, the important stuff, is your photos, what is your service area, hours, if you want to take the extra time to add the products, to have extra photos in here, that's always good. When you do the products, of course, you'll end up entering the categories. The other thing that's kind of interesting, that you can go ahead and add some potential questions and answers in here. So you can add a question and give an answer to it. So how often should I tune my piano? And then you can put in an answer to say, what do you think? And you can kind of pre-pose some, frequently asked questions, essentially. The other thing that they recommended is that once I start into business, they suggest that you put an update into your Google profile, which is basically like, a Facebook post, and do an update like add a new photo of a piano that you worked on recently, or something like that. And, basically, you're going to post an update that's going to say a photo and a description. And if you want a button, then you can add, a book button. Call now if you want them to call, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they suggest doing an update on a, regular basis. They didn't necessarily say how often, but I would say
a place to put coupons too. I've done that
coupons,
a lot, like
if
a
you have a
weekly
special,
coupon.
a twice yearly reminder around when you want people to start booking, type of thing. All kinds of stuff like that.
Wow. Okay.
That's the big stuff. The other thing is that you will be able to, once you start, you can start getting your analytics on how many people have looked at the Google profile.
Wow. Okay.
You can see here 93 people have looked at my business profile already.
That's so good. Have you started, Michael, going in and actually tackling the advertising yet?
I put together a real, basically the minimal amount of money that you can put onto a Google ad, and I put one out there, but I'm not too sure how effective it will be, but I just wanted to learn the process.
Yeah.
So I did put together a mini ad. It's taken forever to load, but that's a little more complex, and I'm still learning that side of it. The Google profile itself is pretty straightforward overall, and that's just not loading right now.
Well, story time. I have some bad Google stories for you guys. This is going to be great, and you're going to see what Michael has done and be like, this is going to be so great, and you can totally do this. You guys can. You get the website launched day 2. You're doing this. This is so nice.
Yeah, and that's a good point. You'll want to work on your website first, and then you'll want to add your Google profile. That's a good point.
So we launched our website in the early 2000s, like 2006, I think, is when we really launched it. So that would be, almost 18 years ago. websites were not the same. The Google was not the same. It was a different beast. Back in the day, you definitely had to have that. They didn't have this, are you a storefront or not? You had to put an address, and you had to get a mailer sent. You had to respond to the mail. And we went from the back of our house in a tiny house, and then we were going to move our location to our first office. And we had about 150 5-star reviews. It was epic. It was awesome. We were great. We moved, and they had told us that those reviews were going to carry over. They did not. They absolutely did not. They, at the time, were still making reviews based on that location, not by the company. And so we lost, years really of reviews that we had acquired. But just so you all know, since then they've revamped everything, and that's no longer a thing. We've moved multiple times, had multiple things, but that was a big hurdle for us, and we were so upset. And I think we were like stamping our feet, like, "Oh, we're never going to use Google." Like, yeah, of course you are. There's nothing that you can really do. But one of the things that was really discouraging is we spent a lot of money on a website. Nobody really had a website in our field in piano tuning back in the day, at least nothing substantial. And I thought as soon as we were done, we spent thousands of dollars on it, that we would start getting business. And that was absolutely not the case. And so there's some of the things that you can do in the here and now, which are is the Google AdWords. I don't know if it's still called that, but I believe it's still called just Google Ads or pay-per-click. And so that is a good get you going while the SEO is working. And so there's two things you need to be able to do as business owners and whether you're going to do it or you're going to hire it out, you need to have ads running if you want to be present or seen at all. And because otherwise you're going to be bottom of page 8, in piano tuning usually. And you can have a great website, but it will take months and quite a bit of time. This is our first round in Denver of really paying for somebody to go and attack our SEO. And within months, we were ranked number 1 and 2. But we've had to put a lot of money towards that. No matter what, we were right away doing AdWords and spending quite a bit of money. Just to give you some perspective, I think we're paying about $1,000 a month in ads, and we're just hoping to break even. And so we just wanted to get reviews, everything going. But early on, usually you'll have more time than money. So as Michael just found out, doing the ads is a little bit more time consuming. It's figuring out what the lingo is, figuring out what words are being prioritized, figuring out how to budget, figuring out all of that to where you can kind of do it. And early on, I was a Google AdWords expert because that's all I did for like part of my job. And I'm guessing all of you will probably be in the same boat for a period of time. And I think it's a good thing to work on because the tools that they have at Google are meant for amateurs when it comes to these AdWords. Would you say?
Google Ads has kind of 2 levels. You have a basic level, which basically walks you through a wizard. And then they have the expert level, which are the people that are really the experts on how to do this and are super experienced on it. And that gives you the most flexibility, of course, with the advanced section. But, for all of us that are just starting out, just use their initial stuff. And I need to do some more searching for good videos to learn more about, setting up the ads and getting good copy and stuff like that. But
be on top of reviewing it weekly. I went through a period where I'm like, great, I have everything going for months, but it felt like it was dropping off. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And sure enough, Google had some kind of a weird update that I was supposed to sign off on. I never did, and we were invisible. So that kind of stuff happens. And so early on, as you're doing it, be sure to be vigilant and just be on top of it. You can hire it out, to give you some perspective. I think we pay about $1,000 a month just to keep somebody who's watching it all the time. But I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, let me show you this one other thing. With my website, you were talking about SEO. You know,
Yeah.
you have what's called basic SEO, which is, you know, what is a snippet that shows up in Google. And, you know, that's the first part,
I
but there's
like that.
other things that can be added in for advanced SEO work. And,
Yeah.
you know, so that's stuff like if you have, you know, your photos to add an alternate text on that has your keywords in your images. So I haven't done a lot of that yet. So that's one of the advanced things. The other thing, as far as, you know, ensuring
So
that you
Michael,
have the
if I'm
right amount of,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
If I'm understanding you right, you're saying that you can turn those photos, instead of just being a photo, actually turn it into a thumbnail, if you will, with a title.
The photo is still there, but there's an alternate property. There's properties within the photos, the images, that you can add what's called alternate text. And that text isn't displayed anywhere, but it's on the back end that's used as a SEO marker that's used by Google and other search engines. So
Interesting.
The
yeah,
alt text is an accessibility thing. It's used by screen readers, and Google and other search engines have basically co-opted that for SEO stuff. So,
so, you know, as far as basic SEO goes, you know, the key things are having a good title in your SEO and having a good short sentence that's going to show up in your search. So that's what this is right here. So when Google searches, it's going to display this SEO text and not anything from your website.
Yes.
It's going to display this instead of the first text that's on your website.
Some of you are probably saying, "Hey, there's a face right here." Hey, Brett. This is my dear friend Brett Moore. Him and his wife, we are just very close. And Brett is actually the owner of Montevilla Sewing. 4 locations in the Portland metro area. Do you mind if I put you on the spot? And how much do you have a percentage of your budget, like it goes to like Google? Do you say, hey, out of every dollar it comes in, 2% is going to go to Google advertising?
Well, actually, I have an overall advertising budget. So that is about 7%. And since the pandemic, we've actually haven't even spent that. So
really?
We've been under 7% since the pandemic.
Does that mean that you're not being clicked that much for that, or?
No, it means that I'm spending less money on some of those things I was spending money on.
Okay.
So I've gotten more to Google advertising, Facebook advertising, things like that, where I'm actually starting to find my customers through those avenues as opposed to radio advertising and some of the direct mail that I was doing before.
5 or 10%, just so you know, is a very common advertising budget, is what I found, is that 5 to 10%. So if your business is making $100,000 a year, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 should be spending, you know, on advertising.
Absolutely.
What have you found as far as the online advertising? Do you still spend as much in AdWords, or do you spend less now that you've been in the industry a long time?
Well, I've actually spent more because I'm expanding my reach. I also have an online store, which allows me to go nationwide. So I've been actually spending my AdWords budget, and that because I'm trying to expand my reach. So
Got it.
I don't have the numbers right off the top of my head to break them all down, what we're spending locally versus nationally.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and thanks, Brett. This actually brings up something that we should talk about, is surrounding yourself with other kind of business owners has been a huge thing for me in my life. Stacy, I know you as well, is that even different industries, I don't know anything about sewing machines, but I know more about business, and Brett knows a ton about business, and it's just, there's so much commonality. So I highly recommend finding these pockets, these circles of friends, and really having fun with it. I think we met for years every Tuesday.
Well, we met Tuesday morning. So this is the great thing about it, is there was actually 5 of us that got together every Tuesday morning. And the advantage of that was that we all had employees at the time. Mm-hmm. We all had rent to pay. We all needed legal counsel, all needed accountings. We all needed things. And so we could actually just talk about our business, spend time talking about our business, but then also we talked about our personal life too.
Yeah.
And that was actually a great, very, not just bonding, but it was very fruitful, I'd have to say.
Absolutely.
So collaboration, you if you're a lone wolf, you won't be as good as if you collaborate. I hate to take over. I'm sorry, but
No, it's true.
But to let you know, this is what happens. Like, I now don't have to do trial and error on just my mistakes, but I get his mistakes and his winnings also. Right?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, and then there's another guy. I get this what worked for him and what didn't work for him. I get all that information.
Yeah.
Because if I just use my own information, I'm going to continue to make more and more mistakes. But he can say, you know, well, I tried paying an employee this much, and this is how it worked for me, and you know, those type of things.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, and as we go, we're probably going to bring on more and more special guests, people that I've been blessed to have in my network, and people that are, you know, not only out of industry but in industry. And so, but Michael, I can't say thank you enough for doing all the legwork, because again, you're the most recent Google business that we've had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it helps that I just did it, a couple of weeks ago, and I had all my links and was able to just fill everything out in this Word doc to send to everybody. So.
That's so great.
But yeah,
That's
there's so many different resources on YouTube to get different people's perspective on, what makes sense on setting up your Google profile. And I have a lot of stuff that I want to go into the weeds on Google Ads, so I still need to go through a lot more detail on that side of it.
Johnny, Justin, Dylan, Robert, David, do you all have websites? Is that finished yet or still in the works? Okay.
Mine's still in the works.
Dylan, are you on Google yet? No, we can't hear you. Sorry. No.
Did it do it?
Yeah, there you go.
Never asked me a second time to unmute. That was weird. All right. Yeah, no, I'm all set up. Website's fully functional. I've even got people traffic to it. Google got the profile all set up. I did my first video verification and they denied it. And I waited weeks and weeks and weeks. And in burner, but finally I got on the phone with them and they did something. They didn't tell me why it didn't work, but they got it all set up.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I got it all, though. They do want to see your address. I work out of the piano store here a lot, and I'm assuming they just didn't like the fact that I was here as opposed to at my home address.
Could be.
I used my financial documents, all the stuff that I used an invoice from to a customer, and then I used an invoice from Piano Tech, and they denied it for some reason.
But you were actually able to get a hold of somebody on Google on the phone?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know if it was anybody special, but I don't mess around. You just sit there and hit 0 through all of the little recorded messages, and you'll eventually.
Take 5 minutes of just hitting 0, and finally they're like, "All right."
Well, I used their contact page and did it like 3 days in a row, and eventually they corrected everything for mine.
There you go.
Squeaky wheel.
In doubt, Google will reject you. If it's something in doubt, Google will reject it.
They'll just reject it.
Yeah, if it's something that they doubt,
Yeah.
they'll just be rejected, and you have to pursue them.
Yeah, Brett was saying that if there any doubt, they'll just reject it, and it's on you to kind of fix it.
Yeah, normally they'll reject it, and it'll just go back and try and re-verify. But mine was weeks. It was saying they were processed, or it never. They denied it at some point, and they never switched my profile back to the start.
Yeah. I kind of want to talk really quickly about the whole review thing, because it's kind of a touchy subject. While I do believe that as you're starting out, you really do need to get on the map. At the end of the day, doesn't matter how many reviews you get. If you're not doing quality work, it will come back. Because you've heard me say a lot. It doesn't matter how many letters you have out at the end of the name, RPT, CPT, anything. The reviews are what matters. While that is true, enough time eventually comes. If you're not careful, they'll pick you. Wow, Victor has 55 reviews and everybody else has 2. If Victor's work isn't at the level, it will really come back to bite you. And so just really kind of be methodical in that, because it may be that everybody else has 10 reviews and you want like, okay, I want to be at least up there. But if you get to the point where you're like, man, I'm just going to go hog wild and I have all my friends and and I got 200 reviews, you may not be ready for that.
I did hear one thing is that for things to start processing for Google to get your thing better, your profile up the list, that you need at least 5 reviews.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I forget which video I was on, but they did say you got to have at least 5 reviews for it to really start bubbling up as a minimum. So you'll need to, that's one of my goals is to get 5 5-star reviews is my first goal.
That is great. Do you know, one of the things that I really recommend as business owners is know who your competition is, how they're winning, how many reviews, how many, I think right now we're tracking Denver. The person with the most reviews has 45 reviews. Great. Eventually we want to hit that. What are other people doing that you're not doing? And one of the things that we ask here at Artisan is, if we were going to kick our butt, how would we do it? And we say, okay, well, we're lean here. We're not doing great over here. We need to pivot over here. So always be thinking about that and how that relates to your business, because other people, competition's great and you can see what other people are doing. And that's one of the things that's so nice about this group is that we can see what other people are doing. The images for the service products, Stacy, are we doing that? That's huge. I didn't even know that.
I've been doing Denver occasionally, but not anywhere else right now. But I can start.
So one thing I stumbled across that was when I was like searching for my business page, it wasn't coming up in searches. When I would type in things like piano tuner near me, like mine was nowhere to be found, right? One guy in the area, he does pay to have his be the first one that comes up. Yep. And it's like a pay-per-click thing. But then I was reading an article about it, and it says that if that's not happening, and you do have good SEO, and you do have good keywords and external links and all that kind of stuff going on your website, if it's still not working, it's probably because Google hasn't crawled your website yet and indexed it. And so you have to go to Google Console, plug in your sitemap into that, and tell Google you need to go over and crawl my website so that it actually sees what pages you have, what are the and you can literally just type in, if you're on Google and you're logged in to your account, you just Google Console and you just start now, and then there's a section that talks about indexing or something like that.
So here's the Google Console. So this, there's 2 different things. One, you have analytics, one you have the Search Console, and you tie your Google account to your website, and then you can see, how it's performing against with Google. And here you can see there's two pages that are indexed, and I have 2 that are not.
And it tells you why they're not too. If you, why pages aren't indexed.
Right. So you can, it'll also show the last time that Google has crawled your website and crawled specific pages.
Talk about having to juggle and having a lot of hats as business owners, right? Mm-hmm. Marketing, CPA, bookkeeping, advertising, web developer, all of these things. But it's fun. It's fun. I mean, it's definitely one of those things that you push yourself. I found that a lot of times once you're up and running, you're up and running. That's great. And then it's a lot of just that maintenance. Victor, you guys have been up there with Afina pianos, and I'm guessing right now with you guys, a lot of it's just kind of maintenance, making sure everything's working. Yeah. Just so you know, the pay-per-click has changed dramatically as the pricing goes. So for instance, when I started, I think it was like $3 or $4 $1 to $4 is what we would pay for a click. Can anybody guess what we pay for clicks nowadays in Seattle? Throw a number.
20 per click.
More.
Oh, I was gonna say 10 to 20. Yeah.
Nearly $50
Wow.
for acquisition. Yeah. So great if you're getting started and nobody else is doing it, but as soon as other people start doing it, it just racks it up like crazy. So knowing the lifetime value of your customer, that's something that we're going to get into more in the business, folks saying, okay, if we think we can have a customer for 3 years or 5 years, this is what it would be. So yeah, it's worth paying $50 for a customer, $100 for a customer if we can get $1,200 of the lifetime value of them. So you always have to be thinking of those bigger pictures.
Yeah, the other thing since I have, set up an ad just to practice on it, the way that it sets up is, what is your minimum value for click? So I basically, the minimum that you can pay for Google is basically $1.50 per click. And then you set, what is your monthly maximum? And I think there's a minimum on that too. I think it was like 40 some dollars or something like that. So I set the minimum on this just to practice with the ad. So yeah, you can set what value you have, and if you have competition, then that'll affect what your placing is on that grid for the sponsored ads. The thing is, the people that spend the most money are not the people that are necessarily on the #1 spot. And it has to do with how good is your Google profile.
Yeah.
If you have a better Google profile, have better SEO, you can potentially spend less, but still end up at the top of the page.
You're so right. You're so right. And they used to have another feature. I think they're doing away with it, but Mikey, you might know if this is true or not. You used to be able to point your ads into the maps area. So that would be when you're looking up Portland, Oregon.
That still
you can show up at the top.
I think it automatically, I don't know whether it's separate right now. I think it's still, I think it's when you do the ads, I think it'll hit both sides, I think.
Just so you guys know what I'm talking about is this, and it's really great if you could get onto this, and that is if I go Google. We're not in Gladstone. I mean, yeah, we service Gladstone, tuning Gladstone, Oregon. What I'm talking about is being listed. So for instance, right here, this is a perfect example. Can you see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Evergreen, he's a competitor with ours, and they're in Beaverton, but they're showing up as in the Gladstone tuners. The more you can get this kind of thing where you're showing up in cities that you're not necessarily, that's not where your address is, that is awesome. And so working that program is totally worth doing.
But David, you're asking about how many reviews on, competitors and stuff.
Yeah.
For the most part, there's two people that have really big Google profiles and have tons of reviews. One has close to 120, the other has close to 150 reviews. Almost everybody else, who are all the older tuners, basically have 5 to 10 Google reviews.
Got it.
And that's pretty much the Indianapolis area.
I see.
Now, David, what do you do when your competitors start interacting with you? Our competitor is commented on some of our social media stuff, and it's just kind of awkward.
Talk about the temperature. What is it they're saying?
Well, like on one of our videos, it was us here at the church working on the piano, and then he just commented, he's like, "Where's that piano at?" And we're like, "Whoa, okay." Like, I don't know, like, it's just kind of awkward. Like, I don't know, we're not going to tell you where it's at.
Yeah, I don't think you need to interact with that type of response.
My response, this is how I've always done it. I think it kind of makes people mad, but I don't, whatever. I'm just like, yeah, totally. That's one of the pianos at one of the churches that we work at. We love working at church pianos, and we have so many of them.
Yeah.
Thumbs up. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, we were pretty polite. We just told him like, "Oh, it's at a church in this town," and you know. But okay, so just try to be polite.
Those like Twitter, X, whatever. things where like Wendy's puts out a post in the McDonald's comments and it's
Yeah.
something
You know what gets really
Something like
bad?
that.
And what's really bad, and we've had this before, is we've had competitors click our ads.
Oh man.
Oh.
Yeah, because I mean, the more successful you are, the bigger the target on your back is. And it's just a reality, not only for your competitors. You know, we even have to be careful because we have marked vehicles. You know, they see this big corporation, they're like, oh, if I slam into that car, I gotta get a payout. So definitely, you know, Victor, I think that you guys are, make sure that you're a corporation. That way you can protect yourself, not just sole prop, but that kind of stuff you have to start thinking about. But no, you're going to have competitors kind of bad mouth it. You're going to have that. I found that you'll win out at the end if you're, because people see it and they're just like, ew, you know, it just leaves a bad taste. And
Yeah.
eventually win out. But it took
Yeah.
us a while, and now we're to the point where it's not a big deal, and people know us, they love us, and people are totally cool with it.
Yeah. No, yeah, we've had some other run-ins with this guy. He called my brother. Just very, very weird. And
He called your brother?
yeah, it's because my dad used to be good friends with the music dealer that's down here, and he's kind of working for them, and so the phone numbers are kind of the same. And so he called my brother asking if he needs piano work or if he wants to buy a piano, and I was there at his house tuning his piano. And my brother, he didn't want to make the situation awkward, and so instead of telling him, well, my brother owns a piano company, he's like, well, my brother's friends with one of the owners of Afina, so we're just gonna have them go ahead and do it. And he's also called my father, so it's getting weird, and it's just kind of.
Has he been in the area for a while?
No, he just started maybe 4 months ago. Yeah, and it's just weird.
I've had the worst issues with people like that. They just start, they got their certificate or whatever, and they're just going for it. And each one of those people that have done that have had to move on. They've had to move on because they get bad PR with their customers. They do poor work. They try to launch themselves into a level that they're not ready for, and they just crash and burn.
Yeah.
So
No, yeah. I think I think it's also, we've gotten a couple calls today. I estimated this church, they needed 4 bass strings replaced and they wanted the works done to it. And so we scheduled them for next week. And then I got a call today. Oh, we're going to go ahead and go with this other guy that gave us a quote. And I had to tell him, like, you guys we ordered the supplies you guys asked for because you wanted it by this date. We can't cancel our order. The strings are already being made. And so it's starting, like what you're saying, when it's, Michael's piano tuning versus a corporation, they think it's okay just to cancel the service. But yeah, we're starting to get that where people are canceling and it's like, oh, come on. we were betting on this. Yeah.
Stacy, are you able to pull up what we just did because of this on our book now?
Oh, on our cancellation.
So nobody's really figured this out. And
Guys,
post-COVID,
I'm determined to solve the reschedule cancellation issue to where we don't lose any money. And this is the newest thing we are doing. I'm gonna
we'll let you know. We'll keep you updated on how it's going because nobody's done this.
But this might be helpful, especially with the cancellations. We've talked about that before. So sorry, I'm just
cancellations is one thing but if they've already committed to you ordering parts, that's something different. That's another level of a cancellation.
We have about 25,000 customers, Michael, with multiple locations, and I can't tell you how many people same day at a knock on the door sometimes from our technician, like, you know what, I'm just going to move it. I'm just going to cancel. It happens to us all the time, and as you get bigger, depending on what you do, if you're going to stay single operator or have more, I mean, you just open yourself up to this more.
Well, most doctors and dentists and stuff now say there's a certain time period, whether it be 2 days or 24 hours, that you still are committed to pay.
Yep. So here you go.
So, can you guys see that? Is it sharing all right? my screen. So I've been tracking this for months, like 3 or 4 months. And we were getting up to, granted, we book a lot of tunings, right? But we were getting like 10 a week that would reschedule. Not all of them were same days, but I would get same days. I would get, and it's you just can't reschedule that. And so, yeah, we added this recently down here. I highlighted it. So it also goes on the email we send out. But yeah, that's kind of what we're trying. Not only that, other things you can try that I've been doing and it's been working. Anytime someone online schedules, I will text them like, hey, thanks for scheduling a tuning with us. Would you like me to let you know if there's an opening sooner? And if it is, I earmark that because a lot of times I can feel it that way. Yeah, wait lists are helpful. What else is helpful? Oh, I've tried recently, and this has been effective too. Just like if we get a last minute cancellation for that day, but it's like later in the day, I'll do like a text blast to other people in the area that haven't tuned for a while, like, hey, we're in your area today, and offer like a discount if we can come that day because we're trying to fill this slot. So those are some things that have been effective. And yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, those are some things that are helping hedge that. It's not 100% yet, but I'm hoping I can get it there to where no matter what it's not like I want to really charge them 95, but honestly, so like I had one call and they wanted to cancel that day, and you can just push it a little, just push into them a little and be like, hey, is there any way like a neighbor could let us in, or just any way to keep the appointment? Because we have a cancellation fee. I'd hate to charge you for that. And it's just like, it's so impossible to fill this last minute. So maybe someone could let us in, or we could just walk in if the door's unlocked, just like offer any way to keep the appointment. And sometimes they'll be like, oh, well, okay, well, yeah, someone could like give it back to them to solve. Like, any other ideas that you have, like do that, like push into it a little if they want to do that.
One of the things that we found post COVID is there feels like there's a degree of depersonalization that has happened in our society. Just so you all know, I've seen your websites and they're great. They're very much at a higher level. It doesn't look like little guy on his own working on the piano. It doesn't. And that's been a choice of yours. And I think it's a great choice. You're elevating your craft. But what I found is people have depersonalized themselves from companies like this, and you've opened yourself up for this. So the more you can do to re-engage and make it personal again, like if you saw what we wrote, help us. People want to help you. They want to support technicians and artisans. They want that. So just try to reach back into the heart, because we've kind of lost that as a society, that depersonalization, and making it personal again is something that I really recommend with your businesses, and try to figure out ways you can do that, because it's easy, if we're not careful, to have a corporate feel, and we don't want that. Y'all, I'm not going to be here on Friday. I'm being stolen away. I'm being stolen to the mountains.
Right. I need to tell you guys that we will not be having coffee hour on Friday because David's being kidnapped.
I'm being kidnapped. That being said, maybe we could just, if somebody wants to kind of be there for the coffee hour, and we can turn it over to one of you all to play around with. And
I could still be there if you want to ask me anything. It's not as cool without David, but I could do it.
It's cooler.
So, yeah, if you want, let me know.
Yeah, but next week we're going to start to tackle some of these 3-note action models, these upright ones, and start to play around and break them apart, put them back together, and come up with some cool things that we can do with them. Maybe we're breaking them. Maybe, so I'm open to requests. So if you want to go ahead and submit questions, submit ideas. We spent a lot of money on them, but we can break them apart and put them back together. We know how to do that. So that being said, I will see you on Monday. I'm going to be in the hot springs in a mountain, I guess, this weekend. So I'll report back to that on Monday.
It's a crying shame. I feel sorry for you.
Yeah, it's going to be horrible.
It's a hard life, David. It's a real hard life.
Andy, our COO, is like, we're going and doing this. He's like, we're eating steak, we're drinking coffee, we're going to bring some whiskey, and we're just going to have a great time. I'm like, yes, Yes. I'll see you all
Enjoy
on
it.
Monday. Make sure to email Stacy questions or things of that nature. And Michael, thank you so much. We'll put that document on the private group so that everybody can play with that. So
Yeah. And plus, people, if they find other, YouTube videos or other resources, then they can add to it in the comments.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Michael, so much. So
Thank you,
much.
You're amazing.
Michael.
Aw,
Yes,
so
thank you
much.
so much.
Everybody.
cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.